I'm about to tell you something that most women will never know about men, and it might make you angry. The simple truth is this: everything your mother, your friends, and society have taught you about how to keep a man is dead wrong. Always be there when he needs you? Wrong. Love him with all your heart? Wrong. Be a good, kind, and supportive woman? Completely and utterly wrong. I dare to say this because I have spent 15 years studying the male psyche, and I discovered a heartbreaking truth. Most women are unintentionally doing things that make men grow bored of them. Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists in history, called this phenomenon ideal archetype hunger. This means the male brain is constantly searching for a specific female archetype. But the harder you try to become the perfect woman, the further you move away from that ideal. To understand why, let's look at how the male brain operates. It's like an artifact hunter. It doesn't care about things that are easy to find, no matter how valuable they might be. It goes crazy only for things that are rare, hard to find, and challenging. Scientists have proven this. Our brains release the most potent dose of dopamine, the pleasure chemical, not when we get what we want, but when we're not sure if we will. This is precisely why overly good girls are so often overlooked. You can test this yourself. When do you think about a text message the most? When the person replies instantly, or when they leave you waiting? When do you crave a song? When it's on constant rotation on the radio, or when you only hear a snippet before it's cut off? When do you desire something most? When it's readily available, or when it's limited edition? This is exactly how the male psyche works. They don't treasure what comes too easily. They crave what they must strive to achieve. Weapon 1. Mystery with depth. Einstein once said, "The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious." Jung applied this to the psychology of attraction and discovered a startling truth. The male brain is not designed to be satisfied with what is completely obvious. Instead, it craves that which remains undiscovered. When you become an open book, easily read from the first page to the last, you have removed yourself from the list of people worth their curiosity. This doesn't mean you have to be deceptive or fake. It's the art of revealing yourself in layers, like peeling an onion, where each layer reveals something more interesting underneath. Dr. George Lowenstein's research on information gap theory proved that the human brain creates a sense of discomfort, a kind of mental itch, when we lack information about something important. And the brain will work tirelessly to fill that gap. Jung further explained that what we do not know about another person is filled by projections from our own unconscious. This means that when you leave gaps in your personal story, their brain will automatically fill them with the most idealized images. Imagine Sarah, who simply tells Michael, "I lived in 5 different countries before I turned 25. When he asks why, she just smiles mysteriously and says, "Each place has its own story." Michael can't stop thinking about those stories. In his mind, Sarah could be the daughter of a diplomat, a free-spirited artist, or even someone with a fascinatingly romantic past. The reality might be as simple as her family moving for work, but the mystery has created a Sarah 10 times more interesting in his imagination. It's crucial to understand the difference between authentic mystery and manipulation. Authentic mystery comes from you actually having depth, rich experiences, and thoughts that you choose to share gradually. It's not about pretending or fabricating stories. When you say, "I had an interesting experience in Paris once, but I'll save that for another time," it must be a real story you're willing to tell when the moment is right. The biggest mistake many women make is thinking that complete openness creates intimacy. In reality, it often creates familiarity, and familiarity is the enemy of attraction. Instead, learn to be an interesting puzzle they want to solve, a song they want to hear to the end, a novel they can't put down. Weapon 2, emotional self-reliance. There is a brutal paradox in love that few dare to admit. The more you need someone, the less they need you. This isn't a cynical observation, but a fundamental mechanism of human psychology, what Jung called the allure of wholeness. Jung believed that the individuation process, becoming a complete individual, is the highest goal of psychological development. In the realm of love, those who have achieved this wholeness are infinitely more magnetic than those who are still seeking completion from another person. The self-determination theory by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan also proves that humans are naturally drawn to and value those who demonstrate autonomy and independence. When you act as if he is the oxygen you need to breathe, you have inadvertently turned yourself into a psychological burden. The human brain is evolved to move away from what creates pressure and seek out what creates a sense of freedom. An emotionally self-reliant woman sends the message, "I choose you because you are wonderful, not because I need you to exist." This is the kind of love men desire most. Love born from choice, not from desperation. Think of Maria. When David cancels their date at the last minute, she doesn't sit around crying or repeatedly calling to ask why. Instead, she feels a moment of disappointment, then calls her best friend and goes to see that movie she's been wanting to watch. She posts a happy photo on social media, not to make him jealous, but simply because she is genuinely having a great evening. David, upon seeing that photo, doesn't feel relief that she's not upset, but a pang of regret. He realizes he just missed an opportunity to be with a woman who is interesting, independent, and has a full life of her own. Emotional self-reliance doesn't mean being cold or indifferent. It means you have a solid self. You know who you are, what you want, and you are capable of being happy without needing someone else to complete you. When you love someone from this position, your love becomes a gift, not a burden. A magical thing happens when you truly embody this attitude. You stop being desperate. You stop overanalyzing every text, every gesture, every silence. Instead, you start evaluating whether they are worthy of your time and energy. And ironically, the moment you stop chasing, they start wanting to be chosen by you. Weapon 3. The intelligence to challenge Jung once emphasized that the anima, the feminine archetype in the male unconscious, is not merely the ideal lover, but also serves as an inner guide or teacher. This is a profound insight that most women miss. Men don't just want to be loved, they want to be challenged to become better. In modern society, men are often surrounded by people who agree with them, colleagues who don't want conflict, friends who don't want to argue, and even women who think that agreeing with everything he says will make them beloved. The result? They feel bored and intellectually unstimulated. A woman who knows how to challenge intelligently becomes a source of fresh energy in their lives. She doesn't argue to win, but to open up new perspectives. She doesn't attack their ego, she stimulates their intellect. There is a subtle but crucial difference between challenging to build and challenging to destroy. When Michael tells Emma he thinks all modern art is meaningless, instead of nodding in agreement, as most women would, or arguing vehemently, as some others might, Emma smiles and says, "That's interesting. I used to think that too, until I saw a Jackson Pollock painting in person. It made me wonder if you've ever stood in front of a piece of art and felt it speak to you?" This question doesn't invalidate Michael's opinion. It invites him to explore his own experience more deeply. What Emma did here was create a positive cognitive dissonance, a gentle disagreement that makes Michael's brain have to work to resolve it. Instead of feeling attacked, he feels invited into an intellectual exploration. And after that conversation, he can't stop thinking about what Emma said. Challenging intelligently also means knowing when to ask questions instead of making statements. "I'm curious why you think that" is far more powerful than "you're wrong." "Can you explain that further?" creates curiosity rather than "I don't agree." But there is a fine line between intelligent challenge and being argumentative for the sake of it. The goal is not to prove you're smarter than them, but to create conversations that make you both think more deeply. When done right, this attitude turns every conversation into an intellectual adventure they look forward to. Weapon 4. Positive unpredictability. If the human brain is a machine, then dopamine is its highest grade fuel. And the most startling discovery of modern neuroscience is this: the dopamine system is most active not when we receive an expected reward, but when we receive an unpredictable one. This is the secret behind the power of positive unpredictability. Jung described the anima as raw life energy, a force that is untamable, unpredictable, yet always brings novelty and stimulation. Men in modern life are often trapped in rigid structures, 9-to-5 jobs, daily routines, predictable conversations. When a woman brings an element of positive surprise, she becomes a gust of fresh air in their structured existence. But this isn't about being erratic or negatively unpredictable. It's about creating unexpected moments that make life more interesting. When Lisa knows that Jake is stressed about a project at the office, instead of just saying, "You'll be fine," like everyone else, she sends him a voice note singing a snippet of a silly song she knows he loves. Or when they're texting about movies, instead of just suggesting one, she sends a GIF from that movie with the caption, "This was my face watching the trailer." These surprises don't need to be big or expensive. They just need to be authentic and thoughtful. The key is that they break the normal pattern of how the two of you interact. When David is expecting a standard text reply from Maria, but instead gets a picture she took of the sunset from her office window with the caption, "Thinking about our conversation yesterday made me notice this," he gets a small dopamine hit. The secret to positive unpredictability lies in timing and relevance. It's not random weirdness. It's meaningful surprises that show you're paying attention and care enough to do something different. When you remember he mentioned loving coffee from a specific shop and you surprise him by bringing him a cup when you meet, that's not just a surprise. It's proof that you listen and care. The wonderful thing about this attitude is that it creates a positive feedback loop. Each positive surprise makes them associate you with good feelings and excitement. Gradually, they begin to expect the unexpected from you. And that is when you become addictive in the best possible way. Weapon 5, emotional depth. Carl Jung made a profound observation about men in modern society. They are often cut off from their emotional world from a young age. Society teaches them that feelings are a sign of weakness, that real men must always be in control and rational. The result is that many men grow up without knowing how to navigate the complex landscape of human emotion. This is where the anima plays a vital role. Jung described the anima as a bridge that helps a man reconnect with his own suppressed emotional side. A woman with emotional depth is not just attractive, she is essential. She becomes a guide who helps him rediscover a territory he has long since abandoned. But there is a great misunderstanding about this. Emotional depth does not mean being dramatic or overly emotional. It means having the capacity to feel, articulate, and share emotions in a mature and authentic way. When Rachel shares with Tom how she feels a touch of melancholy watching the sunset because it makes her think about the fleeting nature of time, she isn't just sharing a feeling, she is opening a window into her rich inner world. What's powerful here is that Rachel doesn't just say, "I'm sad." She expresses her emotion poetically and thoughtfully, connecting an external experience, the sunset, with an internal reflection on time. And most importantly, she is vulnerable enough to share this with Tom. In a world where most conversations are superficial, this kind of depth becomes rare and precious. Tom, like most men, may not know how to articulate similar feelings. But when Rachel shares, she gives him permission to feel deeply too. She models how to be comfortable with the complexity of emotions. Slowly, Tom begins to open up more, sharing thoughts and feelings he has never voiced to anyone. Creating emotional safety is just as important as expressing emotion. When he shares something vulnerable, your initial reaction will determine whether he continues to open up or shuts down. Instead of immediately jumping into advice-giving mode or trying to fix him, simply acknowledge, "Thank you for sharing that with me. I can feel how much that means to you." When you consistently create a space for authentic emotional expression, you become irreplaceable in their life. Because in a world full of masks and pretense, someone who allows you to be truly human is a priceless gift. If these first 5 weapons have surprised you about how the male psyche truly works, then prepare yourself for the remaining discoveries. Because the following attitudes will challenge every assumption you have about creating deep and lasting attraction. Weapon 6, the gentle challenge. Carl Jung had a brutal but accurate observation about the human psyche. We only truly value that which we have to work for. This isn't about being shallow or materialistic. It is a fundamental operating principle of the human brain, shaped by millions of years of evolution. In our hunter-gatherer past, what was easily obtained was often of low value. Berries that had already fallen to the ground were likely rotten. Prey that didn't run was likely already dead. Our brains still carry this genetic programming. Effort equals value. Jung observed that men in particular need to feel they have earned love in order to truly cherish it. This is one of the most difficult truths about love to accept. We are taught that love should be unconditional, given freely, with nothing expected in return. But the psychological reality is this: unearned love is often unappreciated. Not because men are bad, but because that's how the human psyche operates. Think of Jessica, who is always available 24/7, always drops everything when Marcus calls, always agrees to his every plan, always reassures him, "You don't have to do anything. I love you just as you are." Marcus feels comfortable, but not excited, not challenged to be better, not like he is earning something precious. Jessica has unintentionally turned her love into background music. Pleasant, but easy to ignore. Contrast this with Sophia, who cares deeply for Marcus, but also has standards. When he cancels plans at the last minute for the third time, she doesn't throw a dramatic fit, but she also doesn't pretend it's okay. She says, "I understand your work is important, but I also value my time. I need you to respect the commitments we make to each other." When he apologizes and promises to do better, she doesn't immediately forgive and act like nothing happened. She says, "I appreciate your apology. Let me see it in your actions." Sophia is not being mean or manipulative. She simply has self-respect and communicates her boundaries clearly and kindly. This creates an entirely different dynamic. Marcus begins to realize that Sophia's attention and affection are not a given. They must be earned and maintained. Paradoxically, this makes him value her more, not less. The gentle challenge also means not always being the yes girl. When he suggests a restaurant, occasionally say, "Great idea, but I have another place I've been wanting to try. Can we check it out?" When he shares an opinion, sometimes offer a different perspective. I find that interesting. I look at it from this angle. The key is balance. Too much challenge and you become combative. Too little and you become boring. The sweet spot is this: I admire and respect you, but I also have my own thoughts and standards. I expect to be treated as an equal partner, not just a cheerleader. Weapon 7. Authentic femininity. There's a concept in physics called polarity, the idea that opposite charges attract and create a powerful magnetic field. Jung applied this concept to psychology and discovered that the strongest attraction occurs between complementary energies, not identical, but complementary. In the age of gender equality and female empowerment, which are absolutely right and necessary, unfortunate confusion has occurred. Many women think that to be respected and to attract men, they must suppress their feminine qualities and adopt masculine traits. They think vulnerability is weakness, that nurturing is outdated, that intuition is unreliable. Jung would say this is a tragic mistake. The anima, the feminine archetype in the male psyche, does not long for a female version of masculine energy. It longs for authentic feminine energy in all its power and beauty. Masculine and feminine are not superior or inferior to one another. They are different kinds of strength. Think of the women in history whom men found utterly irresistible. Cleopatra didn't try to outmuscle Roman generals. She used her intelligence, her charm, her emotional sophistication. Audrey Hepburn didn't try to be one of the guys. She embraced her grace, her sensitivity, her creative spirit. These women were powerful, not in spite of their femininity, but because of it. Authentic feminine energy has many faces. It can be gentle strength, the ability to remain soft in a hard world. It can be emotional intelligence, knowing how to read people and situations beyond pure logic. It can be intuitive wisdom, sensing things that mere analysis cannot reveal. It can be a nurturing power, the ability to help others grow and heal. When David is stressed about a work project, instead of offering logical advice, the masculine approach, Emma might say, "I feel like you're carrying so much weight right now. Would you like to just be held for a minute?" She offers comfort, not solutions, presence, not strategy. This doesn't make her weak, it makes her irreplaceable. Or when making a decision, instead of being purely analytical, she might say, logically, option A makes sense, but something in my gut feels that option B is the right one. I can't explain why, but my intuition is rarely wrong. She trusts her intuition alongside her analysis. The key is authenticity. Fake femininity, acting weak when you're actually strong, being emotional when you feel nothing, will backfire. Real feminine energy comes from embracing the very qualities society may have taught you to hide: your sensitivity, your intuition, your emotional depth, your nurturing nature, your cooperative spirit. When you fully own your feminine power, you create polarity. You become what he cannot be, what he does not want to be, but what he desperately needs in his life. You become irreplaceable, not because you are like him, but because you are beautifully and powerfully different. Weapon 8, controlled spontaneity. Jung described the anima as the life force, a raw, wild, and unpredictable life energy that is also creative and life-giving. In the modern world, especially for men, life often becomes a series of structured routines. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. They get so caught in predictable patterns that the life force within them slowly suffocates. This is where a woman with genuine spontaneity becomes like oxygen to a drowning man. But there is a critical difference between controlled spontaneity and reckless chaos. Spontaneity doesn't mean being unreliable or irresponsible. It means being open to possibility, flexible with plans, and willing to embrace unexpected joy. When Jake mentions to Mia that he's never seen the sunrise from the mountains, instead of simply saying, "That's nice, maybe someday," Mia might say, "Why not tomorrow morning? I know a spot that's only a 45-minute drive. We could leave at 5 a.m., watch the sunrise, and be back for a late brunch." This isn't reckless. She has a plan. She knows the spot. She's thought through the logistics. But she's also willing to turn an ordinary Saturday into a micro-adventure. Or when they are walking past a live street musician, instead of just passing by, she might take his hand and say, "Dance one song with me?" Right there, on the sidewalk, without caring who is watching. This requires confidence and a willingness to be playful, not carefully calculated. Controlled spontaneity also means being emotionally spontaneous, allowing for genuine reactions instead of always filtering them through social appropriateness. When something truly delights her, she laughs with genuine abandon instead of a polite chuckle. When something moves her, she allows a tear instead of suppressing her feelings. When she feels affectionate, she expresses it naturally instead of waiting for the right moment. But the controlled part is key. This isn't about making impulsive decisions that hurt people or ditching responsibilities. It's about bringing aliveness to everyday moments. It's about being the person who makes life more interesting, not more complicated. The psychological effect on a man is profound. So much of his life is about predictability. The same job, the same commute, the same evening routine. When a woman brings an element of exciting unpredictability, she represents the freedom he forgot he wanted. She reminds him that life can be an adventure, not just an obligation. Alex had dated predictable women for years. Nice, stable, but everything was planned weeks in advance. Then he met Carmen, who would text him at 2 p.m. saying, "Meet me at the park in 20 minutes, trust me." When he arrived, she'd have a picnic blanket with his favorite snacks and a speaker playing a song that reminded her of him. These weren't expensive gestures. They were creative, thoughtful, and perfectly timed to inject magic into an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. The key is to read the situation correctly. Spontaneity when he's stressed about a work deadline might feel inconsiderate. Spontaneity when he mentions feeling stuck in a rut is perfect timing. The goal is to enhance his life, not disrupt it. Weapon 9, solid self-worth. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And in the realm of attraction, nothing is more powerful than a woman who truly knows her own value." This isn't about arrogance or a superiority complex. It's about the quiet confidence that comes from genuine self-knowledge and self-acceptance. Solid self-worth radiates an energy that is hard to describe but impossible to mistake. It shows in the way she enters a room, not seeking validation, not trying to prove anything, simply comfortable in her own skin. It shows in the way she speaks, clearly, directly, without needing to over-explain or seek approval after every statement. It shows in how she handles challenges, with grace under pressure instead of panic or a victim mentality. Most importantly, solid self-worth shows in her boundaries. A woman with healthy self-worth does not tolerate poor treatment for fear of being alone. She doesn't make excuses for disrespectful behavior because maybe he's just stressed. She doesn't lower her standards because this is the best I can get. Instead, she has a clear sense of how she deserves to be treated, and she consistently enforces those standards. When Ryan is consistently 30 minutes late for dates, a woman without self-worth might think, at least he showed up, or maybe I'm being too demanding. But a woman with solid self-worth thinks, my time is valuable. If you don't respect it, you don't get access to it. She doesn't create drama, but she also doesn't enable disrespect. The magnetic psychological effect this creates is that it actually makes men want to rise to the occasion. When a woman expects good treatment and tolerates nothing less, most decent men will step up their game. When she accepts scraps, they subconsciously devalue her, and by extension, the relationship. Sarah had spent years accepting crumbs from men, last-minute texts, canceled plans, half-hearted efforts. Then she did the work to develop genuine self-love. When Michael invited her to dinner via a text at 6 p.m. for tonight, the old Sarah would have been grateful for the invitation. The new Sarah politely declined. I appreciate the offer, but I prefer to plan ahead. Why don't we schedule something for next week? Michael was at first surprised, then intrigued. This was a woman who valued herself enough to have standards. Solid self-worth also means not needing constant reassurance. She doesn't fish for compliments or repeatedly ask, do you still like me? She doesn't analyze every text for hidden meanings or assume the worst when he takes a while to respond. She is confident in the value she brings to the relationship, so she doesn't need external validation every hour. This creates an incredibly attractive dynamic. Men can relax around her because she's not demanding. They can be honest because she won't crumble at the first sign of disagreement. They can pursue her because she isn't chasing them. The irony is that by not needing them, she becomes infinitely more desirable to them. Weapon 10, total presence. In an age of smartphones, social media, and constant digital distraction, the ability to be truly present with another person has become a superpower. Carl Jung stressed that true intimacy is only possible when two people are fully present with each other. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Think about most conversations you witness today. People are physically together, but mentally scattered. Checking their phones, thinking about their next meeting. Scrolling notifications while pretending to listen. True presence has become so rare that when someone gives you their complete, undivided attention, the effect is almost intoxicating. Total presence means multiple layers of attention. Physical presence, open body language, focused eyes, not fidgeting or looking around. Mental presence, the mind fully engaged in the conversation, not planning its next response while they are still talking. Emotional presence, truly feeling and responding to the emotional content of what they are sharing. When David tells Emma about a challenging day at work, most people would offer a generic response, "Oh, that's tough," while scrolling through their feed. But Emma puts her phone aside, maintains eye contact, and truly listens. She pays attention not just to the words, but to the emotional undertones. She asks follow-up questions that show she is processing what he's saying. That sounds so frustrating. How did you end up handling the situation with your boss? Or, I can hear in your voice that meeting really got to you. The psychological impact of total presence is profound. David feels genuinely seen and heard, an experience that is becoming increasingly rare. He associates this feeling specifically with Emma. When they are apart, he remembers not just what they talked about, but how good it felt to be completely understood. Total presence also means being present with yourself. Instead of constantly performing or trying to say the right thing, you are authentic in the moment. You allow for natural reactions, genuine laughter, real curiosity. You're not worried about how you look or whether you're being impressive. You are simply there, fully engaged with the experience. On a dinner date, instead of worrying about food in your teeth or if your dress looks good, you are tasting the food, savoring the conversation, noticing the small details, the way the candlelight reflects in his eyes, the sound of his laugh, the interesting story he tells about his childhood. This kind of mindful presence creates deep, lasting memories. The magic happens when two people are totally present together. Conversation flows effortlessly because no one is distracted. Silences feel comfortable instead of awkward. Small moments, sharing a dessert, holding hands on a walk, watching a sunset, become profound because both people are fully there for them. Lisa noticed that whenever she put her phone away and gave Marcus her full attention, the quality of their interactions improved dramatically. They laughed more, talked more deeply, felt more connected. Marcus started looking forward to their time together because he knew he would have her complete focus, something he got from no one else in his busy, distracted world. This is especially powerful because total presence signals deep respect. It says, "You are so important to me that I am willing to shut out the entire world for a little while, just to be here with you." In an age of infinite distractions, that kind of focused attention becomes the ultimate gift. Weapon 11, healing energy. This is perhaps the most powerful of all the attitudes, and it's a concept Carl Jung spent his final years exploring. He discovered that the most profound relationships often contain an element of the healer, a person who has the capacity to help another heal and grow, often because they have done the deep healing work on themselves. Jung observed that most men carry invisible wounds from their childhood and societal conditioning. Society teaches boys from a young age that feelings are weakness, vulnerability is dangerous, and asking for help is failure. They learn to suppress emotions, avoid intimacy, and maintain a tough exterior at all costs. By adulthood, many men are disconnected from their own emotional lives, but desperately long to reconnect. A woman with a healing energy doesn't try to fix a man or become his therapist. Instead, she creates a safe space where he can slowly, naturally reconnect with the suppressed parts of himself. She does this through radical acceptance, seeing him fully, flaws and wounds included, without judgment or pressure to change. When Tyler shares with Maria his feelings of inadequacy at work, a typical response might be advice. "You should talk to your boss," or reassurance. "You're great, don't worry." But Maria, with her healing energy, responds differently. "Thank you for trusting me with something so personal. I can see how deeply this is affecting you. What does this feeling remind you of from other times in your life?" She doesn't immediately try to make the pain go away. Instead, she honors it, explores it, helps him understand it. She creates a space for him to feel it fully without rushing to a solution. This is a radically different experience for most men, who are used to being told to get over it or man up. Healing energy also involves seeing the potential in a person, even when they can't see it in themselves. When David is going through a career crisis and feels lost, instead of agreeing that the situation is hopeless, Maria might say, "What I see is a man who isn't afraid to question if he's living authentically. That takes courage. Most people just stay in jobs they hate because it's safe." She mirrors his strengths back to him, especially in moments when he feels weak. But she does this authentically, not as fake positivity, but as a genuine recognition of qualities she truly observes in him. The most profound aspect of a healing energy is helping people integrate all parts of themselves, not just the socially acceptable ones. When Tyler mentions that he sometimes feels like crying, but doesn't let himself, Maria doesn't say real men can cry too, which can sound patronizing. Instead, she might share, "I think there's a wisdom in tears. They often know something our minds haven't figured out yet." She models emotional wholeness, showing that it's possible to be both strong and vulnerable, independent and connected, rational and intuitive. Through her example, he begins to see new possibilities for himself. The ultimate expression of healing energy is unconditional positive regard, loving someone for who they are right now, not for who they could become. This does not mean accepting bad behavior or having no boundaries. It means seeing the whole person, wounds, fears, potential, beauty, and caring for their well-being regardless of what they can offer in return. Men often describe women with true healing energy as seeing me better than I see myself, or making me want to be a better man. This happens because when someone truly sees and accepts you, you naturally want to live up to that vision. Love becomes a catalyst for growth, not a pressure to perform. After revealing these 11 psychological weapons, I must share one final discovery, one that Jung noted in the last pages of his personal journal but never published in his academic work. Jung realized that the women who truly embodied all 11 of these qualities didn't just attract men, they transformed them. They became catalysts for what Jung called the individuation process, the journey toward becoming one's true, whole self. These women were not just loved, They were revered as teachers, as healers, as muses. But Jung also issued a warning. With great power comes great responsibility. When you understand this psychology on a deep level, you have a choice. You can use it manipulatively to get what you want without regard for the impact on others. Or you can use it authentically to create genuine connections based on mutual growth and respect. The difference lies in your intention. Are you trying to catch someone through tricks? Or are you genuinely becoming the most magnificent version of yourself and allowing the right person to be drawn to that light? Jung's ultimate insight was this. The woman who masters these 11 attitudes doesn't just win at the dating game. She transcends the game entirely. She becomes someone so magnetic, so whole, so authentic that the right people are naturally drawn to her, not just romantically, but in all areas of life. You now stand at a crossroads. You can click off this video and go back to the old patterns, hoping that being nice will somehow be enough, wondering why you keep attracting people who don't value you. Or you can start implementing these 11 attitudes, beginning today, not as manipulative tactics, but as a path toward becoming the most authentic, captivating version of yourself. I will warn you one last time. This journey requires courage. It means giving up the victim mentality. It means taking responsibility for the energy you bring to relationships. It means working on yourself instead of trying to change others. But for the women brave enough to walk this path, the rewards are extraordinary. You will attract not just any man, but the right man, someone who sees, values, and cherishes you for who you truly are. Jung spent his entire life studying the human psyche. These 11 attitudes represent the pinnacle of his understanding of what creates deep, lasting attraction between people. The science doesn't lie. The psychology is sound. The only question that remains is, what kind of woman do you choose to be? Your transformation begins now.